This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Ice Cube's Big Three is the surprise hit of the summer. This Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern on CBS with playoff elimination on the line. The most physical, fiercest, and competitive basketball in the world. Miami's Michael Beasley and Lance Stevenson must win to make the playoffs. And breakout star Dwight Howard of the LA Riot will battle Gary Payton's Boston squad in a do-or-die match for both teams. 6 teams are alive for 4 spots and all must win. There's no crying in the Big Three. And the no-holds-barred action starts Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Presented by iHeart.
Come on, why is this taking so long? This thing is ancient.
Still using yesterday's tech? Upgrade to the ThinkPad X1 Carbon. Ultra-light, ultra-powerful, and built for serious productivity. With Intel Core Ultra processors, blazing speed, and AI-powered performance that keeps up with your business, not the other way around.
Whoa, this thing moves.
Stop hitting snooze on new tech. Win the tech search at Lenovo.com. Lenovo. Unlock AI experiences with the ThinkPad X1 Carbon, powered by Intel Core Ultra processors, so you can work, create, and boost productivity all on one device.
All right, welcome back. 1 hour to go of the Tennafitzgerald. I had a chance to chat with Paul Charcian on Saturday. I saw a tweet from him Saturday morning. I chatted with him before his segment on with Muss on the Vikings pregame. I said, hey, I'm going to rip you on Monday. He said, hey, I'd love to have the chance to defend myself. So here we are. Yeah. We're going to also talk a little fantasy football. Hi, Charch. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I hope you enjoyed the most impactful preseason game in the history of Vikings football. I know I sure did. I thought it was great.
That was my long-running bit on Saturday. Was every time I tweeted, I talked about what a great start by J.J. McCarthy in the most important preseason in Vikings franchise history.
That's right, absolutely. So here's how I'll defend that statement.
So which
I'm going to have to do in February as well. So this is just a preview for coming attractions in 6 months.
Let me just read it for people that are following along now, right? So your tweet at 8:32 a.m. on Saturday was, and you had a J.J. McCarthy gif, and it said, the most important preseason in Vikings history starts today. That's the one I ripped. You go ahead.
First of all, why do you have to yuck my yum? If I'm excited for Vikings football, why do you have to be the guy that takes that away from me? I mean, can't I just enjoy my Vikings preseason football? Or are you one of these hoity-toity elitists that doesn't believe that anything good can come out of preseason football? Because that's been a running theme on this station for 30 years.
Yeah.
People who care about preseason football are basically drooling morons just here to put money in the owners' pockets and that we serve no actual purpose. Brandon, I like preseason football. I like watching my emerging fantasy guys. I like watching the Vikings so that I can look for the things that I'm looking for. Like, does Donovan Jackson look great? Does he look ordinary? Is Jeff Okudah like maybe a solution? There's always storylines to find, and I'm not such a football elitist, such a snob that I can't, that I'm going to look past Vikings football and not find something to enjoy with it.
All right, here's where I'm going to counter. I have no problem with you liking preseason football. I don't have problems with anyone else. There's lots of people, especially for fantasy football purposes, especially if you're in dynasty leagues like I am, right? You need to find some of those hidden stashes somewhere out there or guys that might get some playing time.
Yeah.
I have no problem with it. The problem with the statement I have is you are saying it's the most important preseason in Vikings franchise history. And I would argue the Vikings and Kevin O'Connell specifically, and even the league in general, preseason has never meant less than it does now. Right? Like they've eliminated a preseason game. KOC has not basically started any of his starters in his tenure in the preseason, and the ones that do like very limited amount of time, right? Like in the 1990s, the way preseason worked was you had 4 games. The third game, these guys are playing into the second half. They're playing, their starters are playing in the third quarter. You saw a bunch of your starters. Now you're lucky to see your starters. So to me, it just means the league itself doesn't care about preseason games anymore. So how can we gauge this as the most important preseason when the games don't mean anything?
The Rams ruined it for everybody. Sean McVay, who, like 4 years ago just said, we're not starting any of our starters ever. And then everybody just sort of jumped on board with that. But here's why I think this is the most important preseason in Vikings history. We've never had a quarterback, including first-round quarterbacks, that have carried what J.J. McCarthy is carrying right now as the possible franchise quarterback. Now, we've had other players that the team has drafted in the first round at the quarterback position that we've been optimistic about, that we've hoped for good things to come. Christian Ponder, Teddy Bridgewater. There have been other opportunities, but those guys never had the upside that J.J. McCarthy seems to have. J.J. McCarthy is the upside of being one of the 10 best quarterbacks of the league, in the league, if everything clicks. Christian Ponder, we never deluded ourselves into thinking Christian Ponder could ever be, or ever have the arm talent to be, one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the league. We had just hoped that Christian Ponder could be an NFL average quarterback and the rest of the team could be good enough that we could have success. And it turned out he was not. The McCarthy gives us so much potential upside that if he can flourish, that, this could be, the Vikings could have their quarterback for the next decade and be great. And this season could be great. So for me, the JJ McCarthy alone makes this the most exciting preseason of any that I can remember.
Okay, let me give you a comparable then. Another player who was quarterback drafted in the first round, didn't play year 1, played year 2 as a starter on teams that were going to the playoffs and had a receiver like Randy Moss, so there were high expectations, Dante Culpepper.
Yeah, and I thought about Culpepper, drafted 1999. Do you remember the player they took immediately after Dante in the first round? Not immediately.
That the Vikings took?
Later. Yeah.
Was that Demetrius Underwood?
Nicely done. That's exactly who it was. Demetrius Underwood was the next
That one didn't work
taken.
out as well.
Oof.
That
did not work.
What is he up to these days, by the way? There's got to be a There's got to be a Demetrius Underwood documentary out there somewhere that we could watch. Get on it, Netflix.
Yeah. We have the Joe Webb
with
documentary. First, and I don't mean this to sound as bad as it's going to, do we know if he's alive?
I don't. And the funny thing is,
either.
And I believe it was a lot of like mental health stuff, which back then there was a little bit more of a stigma to, right? Like you wonder if this would have happened like 20 years later, he would have gotten the help he needed and the team would have stuck by his side. And, by November, he would have been good to go, but it was a different time back then.
It looks like he's still with us.
It was a different time.
He is still with us.
All right, good.
I want to know what's up with Demetrius Underwood. Yeah, I want to.
I'd like to find out too. What's he do for a living right now? He quit at training camp or on the way to training camp, if I recall correctly. I think.
Yeah, he didn't play it down for us.
Drove to Mankato and then announced he was quitting and then just turned around and left is how I remember it. Probably got a speeding ticket in St. Peter too, by the way.
So how was the first test by J.J. McCarthy, in your opinion, in the most important preseason franchise history? How did you think he played?
Well, not a lot to break down, unfortunately. I would like to have seen a lot more J.J. McCarthy.
Which is disappointing with how important it was.
Yeah, I know. Considering it's the most important preseason in the history of the team, you'd think they'd have played him a little longer. The clear thing that worried me was the accuracy. Might be just jitters, right? And adrenaline's flowing. I think that certainly can affect accuracy. We had that Addison catch shouldn't have been as hard as it was, and then he sailed another pass across the middle. What I did like is we did see him make some reads. The run that he had was timed out right, felt pressure, got out of the pocket, picked up a first down. And so I don't think there's not as much to draw on as I'd like. I think he looked about as I expected, but I'd take a little more accuracy from him. But I did like the fact that I thought that ultimately he was throwing to the right guy, and that's a step in the right direction.
All right, can we chat a little fantasy football on the other side of the break?
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
I didn't even get to
something
talk
I
fantasy.
actually know something about.
You know a lot about fantasy football. I listen every week at Fantasy Football Weekly on the iHeartRadio app. So when we haven't had a chance
on KFAN on Saturday mornings now,
but we're back. You and me haven't had a chance to talk fantasy all summer long. So let's do one segment, Fantasy Football with Paul Charcian, next.
The reviews and ratings are in, and Ice Cube's Big 3 is the surprise hit of the summer. This Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern on CBS, with playoff elimination on the line, the stars will be flocking to Los Angeles to witness the most physical, fiercest, and competitive basketball in the world. Miami's Michael Beasley and Lance Stevenson must win over Houston to make the playoffs, reeling from last week's savage beating at the hands of Chicago's possessed Montrezl Harrell. Last time these teams met, Miami beat Houston, but they are a dangerous team having their manhood at stake. Then breakout star Dwight Howard of the LA Riot will battle Gary Payton's Boston squad in a do-or-die match for both teams. Will LA avenge their previous shocking loss to perennial basketball Boston rivals to survive? 6 teams are allowed for 4 spots and all must win. Don't miss the Big 3, the 3-on-3 basketball league everyone is talking about. There's no crying in the Big 3, and the no-holds-barred action starts Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, followed by 2 games on Vice starting at 6:30 Eastern, presented by iHeart.
Lenovo is built for creators who don't wait for inspiration. They chase it. With inventive tech, built-in AI tools, and seamless performance, Lenovo devices powered by Intel Core Ultra processors are designed to bring your wildest ideas to life faster. That's the power of Lenovo with Intel inside. Enjoy flexible financing, rewards on every purchase, and free shipping. And students get special offers when you create an account at Lenovo.com.
Lenovo.
Get ready to laugh. Comedy legend Bill Engvall is back at Treasure Island Resort and Casino Friday, September 5th. The blue-collar comedy tour icon may have retired, but he just couldn't stay away from the stage. Here's your sign to catch him live for another round of side-splitting humor. Get all the details, TICasino.com.
You know, that sounds like a fun night at Treasure Island Casino, but I think I know of a better night at Treasure Island Casino. That'll be this Friday for the Fantasy Football Training Camp. Paul Charcian, along with the other guys at Fantasy Football Weekly. You're going to be in Red Wing, Minnesota on Friday night, huh, Charch?
Yeah, we'll be at Treasure Island Friday. This is the 15th. It's beginning at 6 o'clock. A live version of Fantasy Football Weekly. Myself, all my co-hosts are going to be there. It is completely free. They give you a $10 meal voucher. They give you $10 in table play. They give you a chance at, and they're giving away $1,000 to one of the people that show up. So a ton of fun, totally free. It's Friday, 6 o'clock, Treasure Island Fantasy Football Weekly Training Camp.
Excellent.
And my dogs in the background.
Yeah, maybe they'll be there.
They will not be there.
Okay. Well, you might need like a therapy dog on the airplane for your ride, so maybe they can help you out.
Yeah, you know, I don't think I'm going to be that guy that brings the therapy dog.
Okay, that's okay.
I mean, if you do, no more power to you. But if you're going to do it, I think you do something weird and bring like your therapy octopus in a
that sounds fun,
jar or something.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I want to ask you some fantasy football questions. I feel like the first round, right? If you're like in a 12-team league, I feel like it's kind of fascinating this year, right? Like I feel like there's like a hierarchy that you can follow. Like, oh, these 2-3 players might go first, and then these 3 players might go next, and and this year I think it's just very random, right? Like, you know, I think Jamar Chase is probably going number 1 mostly just because he's kind of the most sure thing. But you know, Saquon Barkley, as good as he was last year, we know his injury history. You've got guys like Christian McCaffrey and Derrick Henry going late first round, but Christian McCaffrey easily could be a league winner for you. You've got a rookie in Ashton Genty that's, you know, still some uncertainty around. Puka Nacua, his quarterback might not be healthy. Justin Jefferson's had some hammy stuff happen. Like, I feel like it's hard to come up with a hierarchy for the first round. How are you looking at the first round? Who are you liking more than others?
Jamar Chase is going first overall in almost every draft I've been in. And it's overwhelming. It's Justin Jefferson was that guy last year. Most people are going there, and understandably so. No problem with that whatsoever. After that, go get your guy. Get the guy you want. That's going to make your season the most fun. If you love Justin Jefferson, you could take him as high as number 2. If you love him, just go get your guy. And I really have no problem with deviating from average draft position. We all get beholden like, well, I'm looking at the ESPN list and it's saying right now I should take either CeeDee Lamb or Malik Neighbors or Jahmyr Gibbs, I don't want to look like an idiot, so I got to go with one of those guys. Just, if you've got somebody you want on your team, go get him. As an example, I've got Chase Brown inside my top 10. He's my number 10 player. And I think the Cincinnati running back is sitting on a gigantic season as the lead back in a very, very good offense who started catching a lot of passes in the second half of last season. He's going to be a problem, and I want him on my teams, and I'm not worried about the fact that Chase Brown's typically going a second round. I'll take him at the end of the first round.
Yeah, his ADP is 22, according to Fantasy Pros. You might have I'm guessing you just answered the question I was going to ask you, but for me, I find myself in all my underdog fantasy drafts for best ball drafting Malik Neighbors a lot. I think he's just due for an absolute, I get there's still some quarterback issues potentially there, but I think he's just an absolute stud. I was going to ask you who in the first two rounds are you drafting the most? I guess maybe the answer is Chase Brown. How about other than Chase Brown, who are you leaving drafts with the most from the first two rounds?
Brock Bowers. I love, what's not to like about Brock Bowers' rookie season when he set the all-time reception record for a player at any position, and now he gains the advantages of a competent Raiders coaching staff with Petey Sunshine, Pete Carroll. We gain the advantage of having Ashton Genty, who's going to extend drives. He's going to get this team over the 50-yard line more often, get the Raiders into scoring position more often. And Brock Bowers turned 112 catches last year into only 5 touchdowns. If he gets that same 112, and he could get more this year as a sophomore, Brock Bowers should be sitting on more like 10 touchdowns. I mean, the 5 is weird for only 5 touchdowns on 112 catches. So that'll normalize to get him closer to double-digit touchdowns. And Brock Bowers, tight end's a huge difference maker. I've got Brock Bowers. Somebody else is going to war with Isaiah Likely or Hunter Henry, and just hoping that you don't get a 2-catch, 20-yard performance, which is very possible for those guys.
I was expecting you to answer Bucky Irving. I'm a little disappointed in you.
Well, and I love Bucky Irving. I've got him higher than most. I got him at 17 overall. My only worry on Irving, and only worry, especially Rachaad White hurt now, and this could linger into the season.
Yeah.
Only worry on Bucky Irving is this start of season schedule that's really hard, and they don't have Tristan Wirfs. Their starting left tackle is likely to start the season on the PUP list, and he's great. And the only thing Bucky Irving doesn't do very well is pass block. And I'm a little bit worried that if the Bucs have got a pass blocking problem without Tristan Wirfs, they might take Bucky Irving off the field a little bit, but that's it. Everything else, it's all systems go for Bucky Irving, who, in my opinion, was last year's best running back in terms of running the ball, even more than Barkley and Bijan Robinson and all these other great players. Bucky Irving was just dominating last year, and the metrics are fantastic. I love that guy.
All right. Who in the first two rounds are you never drafting?
Well, I'm glad you asked. The primary guy I'm not drafting is Devon Achane. And a couple of reasons. You have the long history of injury, stayed healthy last year, but at this time last year, we were all like, can Devon Achane play like half a season even? We weren't sure. Offensive line for Miami is terrible. In the preseason game this weekend for the Dolphins, they got the first team offense, which included Achane earlier in that drive. They got to the stripe. They ran Jalen Warren 4 times because Jalen Wright 4 times because they're trying to find a goal line back, and it's not Achane. He's not built for that. He's too slight a build. They don't have their goal line guy, but it isn't going to be him. And then if Tua gets knocked out again, anytime, Miami doesn't have its starting quarterback, you worry about the efficacy of the entire offense. So that's why Devon Achane is, I have him ranked 12 overall. I acknowledge that he's a good player. I'm not drafting him at that price.
You were the first ever to come up with do the opposite. And we have had a little bit of a reemergence of the running backs, I think, over the last, especially last year with the way Saquon Barkley performed. From the underdog fantasy drafts that I've been doing, and this is best ball, I know it's a little bit different. I have found the do the opposite approach to put out my best lineups. I've liked going wide receiver heavy early, maybe tight end if I can get a Brock Bowers or a Trey McBride. And I feel like my best lineups are when I'm getting those receivers and tight ends early, and then, maybe getting a Kenneth Walker, or a Chuba Hubbard, or, taking a shot at a Travion Henderson, those types of players later. I'm assuming you are still a big fan of do the opposite.
I am. And for people that don't know, and this was zero running back before there was anything called zero running back. And we talked about it for years on Fantasy Football Weekly. The premise is running back's the most volatile position in fantasy football. These guys get hurt the most. Things go wrong in the offensive line. They get affected. If the score goes the wrong way in the first half and your team's down by 2 touchdowns, now you're phased out. There's just a lot of things that can go wrong at running back. So rather than put all the running back risk at the top of your draft with the most valuable picks that you have, instead put those riskier players into the middle of your draft and go with these sure thing, proven quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends with your most valuable picks. And then just load up on the kinds of running backs that you were just talking about, including Tank Bigsby in the middle rounds.
You can get Tank Bigsby.
I had to bring it back to Tank Bigsby.
Got to bring it back to Tank Bigsby.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like he might be getting some run in Jacksonville. All right,
baby.
Final question for you before we let you go. This has nothing to do with players in fantasy, but what's the one thing that most fantasy football leagues, in terms of the commissioners or how they're running the league or the settings of the league, what's the one thing that fantasy football leagues in 2025 are still getting wrong?
2 things. One is if your league allows vetoing by other owners, it's always a disaster scenario. Yeah. Friendships end. You can't have vetoes in your league. No owner should be vetoing another owner's trade. And the only way that a trade should ever be reversed is if there's actual literal collusion, and then you should kick that person out of the league. Or both people out of the league if it's 2 teams colluding. Then the other one is free agent blind bidding. The only way you should be awarding any free agents throughout your season is with free agent blind bidding. Everybody starts the season with a mythical, like $100 mythical dollars, and then you spend it throughout the season on free agents, and everybody gets a crack at everybody. If you are distributing free agents any other way, your league is doing it wrong. This is the best way. It's most strategic and it's most fair.
Everyone should be playing Superflex by now too.
Yeah, Superflex is a game changer. All my leagues are Superflex. It is so much better. You know what else is great? Guillotine leagues. Super fun.
That's a great way.
Everybody here has already heard of those, and that's a super fun variation. And you can take the league you've got with your friends right now and spin off a guillotine version with everybody who wants to play with all the same people and maybe even more friends, because guillotine leagues allow up to 18 players. And super fun, highly recommended, guillotineleagues.com.
What's the name of that website again?
Well, I thank you for asking. GuillotineLeagues.com, where there's 3 ways to play. You can play for free with strangers. If you just want to dip your toe in the water, you can play for cash in many states, including Minnesota. And you can have a private league for free with your friends.
Yeah, go play for cash, though. It's much more fun that way. Thank you, Charch.
I believe there's somebody on the fan that likes to remind us that life is better with cash on the line.
That is correct. Thank you, Charch. Always love talking with you.
Thank you. Friday.
Oh, yes.
Treasure Island Fantasy Football Weekly Training Camp. It is free to attend, 6:00 Friday night, Treasure Island.
It's my wife's birthday, or else I seriously would want to go, because my oldest child is now getting to the point where he's interested in fantasy football. I would have loved to have brought him, but we got some birthday celebrations going on.
What could be a better birthday celebration than seeing Fantasy Football Weekly live in person?
Well, my wife is not so big on fantasy football, but maybe
that's her problem to sort out. I mean, you just bring her, and then
she might just want like an alone night. Maybe that's her birthday gift. Like, hey, she's like, I just want to be alone. You take the kids out
right,
somewhere.
I'll take the kids.
If that's the case, I'll be down. Right. I'll be down in Red Wing. I'll see you there.
We'll see you there.
All right. Thank you, Charch. Paul Charcian, Fantasy Football Weekly and GuillotineLeagues.com. He is the absolute best talking fantasy football. One more segment to go. We're talking Vikings with Pete Bercich, analyst for the Vikings Radio Network.
The reviews and ratings are in, and Ice Cube's Big 3 is the surprise hit of the summer. This Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern on CBS, with playoff elimination on the line, the stars will be flocking to Los Angeles to witness the most physical, fiercest, and competitive basketball in the world. Miami's Michael Beasley and Lance Stevenson must win over Houston to make the playoffs, reeling from last week's savage beating at the hands of Chicago's possessed Montrezl Harrell. Last time these teams met, Miami beat Houston, but they are a dangerous team having their manhood at stake. Then breakout star Dwight Howard of the LA Riot will battle Gary Payton's Boston squad in a do-or-die match for both teams. Will LA avenge their previous shocking loss to perennial basketball Boston rivals to survive? 6 teams are allowed for 4 spots and all must win. Don't miss the Big 3, the 3-on-3 basketball league everyone is talking about. There's no crying in the Big 3, and the no-holds-barred action starts Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, followed by 2 games on Vice starting at 6:30 Eastern, presented by iHeart.
Lenovo is built for creators who don't wait for inspiration. They chase it. With inventive tech, built-in AI tools, and seamless performance, Lenovo devices powered by Intel Core Ultra processors are designed to bring your wildest ideas to life faster. That's the power of Lenovo with Intel inside. Enjoy flexible financing, rewards on every purchase, and free shipping. And students get special offers when you create an account at Lenovo.com.
Lenovo.
Next. All right, final segment of the Tennafitzgerald. And pleased to be joined by the analyst for the Vikings Audio Network, Peter Bercich. Hello, Peter.
How are you, Tenna? What's going on?
Good. What's the difference between being on the radio and simulcasting with the television? How does that change your role?
Well, the only thing that changes is what I'm wearing.
You don't have a problem?
I mean, honestly, it is that way. And, you do have a monitor in front of you. And so there's some coordination between, let's say, or what you're talking about and what the camera is on, because you do want to have, you don't want the camera to be on let's say Jefferson on the sideline and you're talking about McCarthy, or you know what I mean. So there's a little bit of that, but it's not a quantum leap.
You don't have, I would feel like on the television side you'd have someone yapping in your ears all the time. Is that not the case?
A little bit more than on the radio per se, but so but PA is the one that's got to deal with all that.
Okay.
Not really us. So, God bless them.
What do you remember about your first ever preseason game?
It was in Dallas, Texas. We flew down the day of the game. So we didn't fly down a day early and stay in a nice hotel. We flew down the morning of the game, got on the buses from the airport, went to a hotel, had a walk-through kind of little deal in there, and then we got on the buses again. Went to the stadium. This is back with Jack Del Rio and Ed McDaniel. And back then, the starters played the first half of the first preseason game. And so we didn't see the field, but then the second half of the game, I didn't come out. So it went from nothing to like everything. And
Sure.
It was, it's August and you're in Dallas, Texas. And back then it was an outdoor stadium. So it was 900 degrees. I mean, those are the things I remember. Yeah, it was a long day.
That first year, like, what was your level of confidence in training camp and preseason that you were going to make the roster? Like, how much doubt did you have? Did you think you were going to make the team? Did you think you had to work extremely hard to get to? Like, what was your mentality at that point?
Well, it was, I had, the reality was there were 6 or 7 positions and there were 11 or 12 of us playing the position. So every single day, every single practice, every single rep you might get in any chance that you had to get out there, you had to do something. So to your point, that pressure is constant. It doesn't matter how good or bad you feel that day. It's a different, and I've had this conversation with Robert Smith about, dreading going to training camp, and the reasons to dread going to training camp were completely different because his reality was a lot different than mine per se.
Yeah.
Right. Every single year you had to find a way to make the team, and a lot of it back then, a big part of it was just being there. I didn't miss a day of training camp in 7 years. Right. I had to be there. That was like Bud Grant would say, your greatest ability is your availability. I had to be there. I couldn't miss. I wasn't talented enough to miss a week or miss a game or whatever, like kind of like the way it is now, or for Robert, and even Robert was like, man, that would suck. I'm like, yeah, it's just, but it is what it is. It's just different. You know what I'm saying? And that's I think a big hurdle for a lot of these younger players in understanding that not everybody gets treated the same, right? Not everybody, it's not college. That's kind of where college is. Everybody has a scholarship, so you're on the team. You just may or may not play. Well, in the professional ranks, it's not the same, right? Everybody's experience is different. Everybody has to do what they have to do to make it. And for some guys, it's, you get every second of every day, every minute, and every, in every meeting room matters. For some guys, it doesn't, because they're just talented or better or whatever. That's why I love guys like John Randall, who had all the talent and ability, right? Maybe not enough coming out of college. He had to earn his way, but Johnny he was always the first person in line in every single drill, every single day in Mankato. We're all proud of how hard we worked. All of us were, but I know I couldn't work as hard as he did. It was impossible. I just couldn't do it. Right. So, that's why I love guys like Johnny, Randall McDaniel, guys like that who could have taken advantage of their situation, but never, ever chose to.
How do you feel about then how preseason games have transformed from when you were playing? Because as you mentioned, I remember starters in the third preseason game back in the day playing into the third quarter. Now you might see starters for one series total. There are many starters in the league that don't even play at all in the preseason. How do you feel about that transformation of how preseason has changed?
It's just how the games evolved. The game now is so much more. It's matchup. It's so much more matchup than it used to be. It's spread out. The ability to complete short passes at a very, very high rate, right? So the passing game has taken away or replaced a lot of the running game. Nowadays, if you get a mismatch, that's what game planning is creating physical mismatches, getting a 6'7" tight end on a 5'9" defensive back, right? And you can exploit those things now because the game is so much more refined. It's so much more wide open, right? Your ability, the physicality is still there, but it's not, being physical isn't as much of a requirement as being able to run and being a great athlete. And everything, as far as training goes, training camp, the whole thing, it's all now about you being at your peak physical ability, right? Running as fast as you can. That's how this whole thing is designed now. How you train, how you eat, all those things are to make sure that the guy who can run a 4.4 can run a 4.4 10 weeks into the season. Back in the old days, it wasn't about that. It was about, it was more fundamental, more physical, right? Like offensive line coaches are remiss for the old days because they could actually be in pads day after day after day and really teach technique and the kind of technique that you have to be in pads to learn. So that stuff's kind of gone away a little bit. Athleticism then has become more of a premium because being a great athlete makes up for a lot of poor fundamentals and things like that. So, it's a tough question to answer, Tenna. You asked me what time it is, and I'm telling you how to make a watch. But it's not a simple answer because the game has changed. Is the game as good as it used to be? Yeah, I still love football. I still love watching it and everything else, but it's different. And that's how it's changed.
All right. I do want to ask you about Saturday's game, but I do have now one follow-up to this.
Sure.
Obviously, I'm assuming Barry Sanders was the hardest player for you to tackle in terms of running backs. But I'm curious, because the game was much more physical back then, which running back inflicted the most pain on you when you would have to tackle? Which one was the hardest to tackle in terms of pain?
The most pain I ever had tackling somebody was Sam Gash.
Who's that?
He played for he was a fullback, tailback from the Patriots. And he's not a household name, but I'm telling you, I hit that guy as hard as I could, and he hit me as hard as he could, and it hurt a lot. I mean, it is what it is. And so I'm trying to remember, too, that the New Orleans Saints had that running back that was about 260 pounds. I never got to play against a Christian Okoye.
Was that Hayward?
Yes, Hayward. Yes.
I forget his first name.
That guy, too. I mean, seriously, it's like saying, all right, there's Dave Dixon with a football. He's going to be running full steam down at you. Go tackle him. And you're like, okay, maybe. Right? But you just do it. You do it the best you can, and that's it. But yeah, there were some monsters back in the day. Thank goodness you didn't have to see them every single week.
They also had huge shoulder pads back then as well.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's talk about the game on Saturday that you were the analyst for the Vikings radio network on. J.J. McCarthy, what were your thoughts on his limited action?
Yeah, I think, as a process and how he went, did well. Just handling the in and out of the huddle and the cadence. And it's not, and I'm glossing over it, but it's not a simple thing. The other thing is just the style of offense that they ran when he was in there. A lot of two-back, a lot of bootlegs, keeping him on the move. Not quite you would see, I think, a year ago. Right? I think they're changing and putting him in areas and or trying to keep him in plays that he's going to be successful and he's comfortable with. So in that regard, if you watched what they called when he was at quarterback was different than when Howell was in. When Rippon was in, it was different. And ultimately, when Brosmer was in there, it was a little more spread out, shotgun. You know what I mean? So it was a little different, just what they asked him to do. And to piggyback on that, it's like that's what, if you're there Wednesday, Thursday, keep an eye on McCarthy and see how many down the field pass attempts that he makes during that scrimmage, because that's the next thing that I want to see out of him, right? Is some of those down the field routes that we're famous for, because we're explosive passing offense, seeing him make those. I don't think he had that opportunity. They didn't really call those kinds of plays on Saturday, but the next step in his progression, for me, is to say, all right, cool. You can execute these things and you can get them on the move, which is more so than what we could say about he's better on the move than Darnold or Cousins was.
Yep.
But how about that down the field stuff? Can you do that too? Right? You didn't see him make some of the throws Howell made from one hash mark all the way across the field on an out route. Right? We didn't see that play called when JJ was in there. So, that's what I want to see next.
You may have kind of just answered my next question, but how much different do you expect the offensive philosophy to be with J.J. McCarthy at quarterback, right? We've heard about, hey, they want to run the ball more. They got Jordan Mason. They got the big offensive linemen. But, KOC has always been a little bit more of a passing offense type of guy. And like you just mentioned, he likes to get the ball downfield. Do you see a different style of offense to address some of maybe the issues they've had in the past and with the new quarterback? Or do you think KOC is always going to, the main part of KOC's offense is always going to be the main part?
Well, here's the thing. It's comfort zone. It's the identity. You have to have an identity for a defense, right? You have to have an identity. But at the same time, you can't ask a player to do something he's not capable of, right? And that's, I think, shows up a lot more too because of the youth, right? McCarthy is the first-year quarterback, so that's a big issue. But you've seen it a million times where you have a successful coordinator somewhere becomes a hot thing and then run that same scheme in a different city with different players, and you just can't. It doesn't always work. You've got to tailor what you do to the talents that you have.
All right, let's talk about the backup quarterback.
That Kevin O'Connell wants to run, but they're not going to just say, this is our offense, this is what McCarthy has to do. No, they're going to say, all right, JJ has these talents, so we're going to cater to those. And it's a balance. It's going to develop in front of our eyes as the season goes, right? I'm assuming ultimately they're going to want to get him to be a Cousins-type pocket passer and have the ability to get him on the move and run around and do those things as well. But that's going to take a lot of time. But I think that's the ultimate goal. So as time goes on, I think we're going to see more of our classic 5 and 7 step deep passing game type offense.
Sam Howell was pretty efficient and accurate in that game, 11 for 13. How do you think his skill set compares to JJ? And I asked, if something were to happen to JJ where he was out with an injury, can Sam pretty much run those same plays, or does he have different throws that he's better at or worse at than JJ?
I think right now, physically, what Howell has is experience, right? He's seen, you put Howell in, a guy who started he started an entire season in Washington. He threw 612 passing attempts, more than any other quarterback in the league. He's used to getting up to the line of scrimmage and looking at a defense and trying to figure out what it is that he's getting and where he should go. And when you put him out there as a 2 in the preseason, it should be pretty easy for him to take a look around and say, okay, I'm getting this, so I'm going to do that. And I think that's what we saw out of him. Very decisive, knew where to go with the football. Again, I loved some of the longer throws that he made, because that was the big question mark when you watch him on film, is everything was Brock Purdy-like. It was all in between the hash marks. It was post routes. It was, double post routes, Zampese routes. So, all this stuff around the middle. Where he got into trouble was throwing the ball on the outside. That's, that was his, body of work in Washington. Well, he's come here and he's evolving, right? But it's the experience that's carrying him through this right now. And, what we saw out of him makes me more comfortable that he's a fit for what the Vikings are trying to do offensively. So I feel a lot better about having him as a backup, seeing him execute some of the throws that there were going into this a lot of question marks about. He's a 3-step quarterback guy. He's an underneath passer, right? No, well, maybe not. Maybe he's evolving, and that's what you need to see. So his skill set is a little different than JJ, but the main difference is just experience.
Who stuck out to you in that game Saturday, and you thought, man, I really like the way this player played?
I thought, Blake Brendel did a great job moving to right tackle. Jordan Mason looked really good. Gabe Murphy obviously showed up quite a bit. So those are. Here's how you want to look at it, or at least looking at it is if you have a second student who may get a couple sniffs and playing in games, well, then he better stand out when the 2 are out there. If you've got a number 3 player who is vying to be a backup, well, then it's number 99. I apologize. But he did a lot. I mean, he popped and did things. Hey, I like what I see. This kid's got a chance. And I'm not saying a chance to be the next all-pro for the Vikings, but a kid who has an opportunity and some skill set that, he keeps it up, they're going to have a hard time getting rid of him. They're going to want to keep him around. So, yeah, I mean, there were a number of guys, I think, in that regard that stood out, and but nothing was ridiculous, like a man on boys, so to speak. A lot of good things.
All right, last question for you, and you're cutting out a little bit, so hopefully we'll be able to hear it. But Max Brosner, I'd heard about the physical limitations from an NFL arm talent standpoint, and I guess I didn't really see that in the game the other day. I thought he looked really, really good, very efficient, making some big-time throws. Given he's out there against 3rd stringers, 4th stringers, and it's in a preseason game and it's a small sample, how much stock can we put into that performance?
I think you could say the kid's got a chance to stick with the ball club, and meaning that the NFL. You sit here and say the NFL, it's not too big for him. I mean, he has some traits like a quick release, and he's very accurate. I mean, that's what Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah said Friday in our meetings. And we saw exactly that. And if you know who you are as a quarterback, that I'm very accurate, I can get rid of the football quickly. So that means I have to be able to read a defense and anticipate and do all those things. You can still be a damn good quarterback in the NFL. So for Brosmer, I think that what it shows is that the investment that the team is making in him right now is paying off. So what does that mean? Well, that means that you probably want to invest more in him. And by investing more, does that mean he's the number 3? Well, he's on it. If he keeps playing like he is, I think, eventually he'll be the number 3. If the preseason was going to go on for 4, 5, 6 weeks, right? He's a guy that, I think should move up the ranks and very well can. His big challenge, immediate challenge, is the fact that the starting quarterback is only a first-year player, right? It's not like he's backing up Kirk Cousins or a veteran, been around forever, and that way you can have a rookie backup quarterback going into a season. I don't think the Vikings can do that because JJ is a rookie, right? So I think that's why I think Howell's going to be the backup, because he's got the experience. You don't want to have a quarterback room with a bunch of 23-year-olds. You got to have somebody in there that has been up and down this road a few times.
Sure. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate your time as always. We'll listen to you on Saturday.
All right, thanks, Tenna. See you.
All right, Pete Bercich, analyst for the Vikings Radio Network. Vikings back in action Saturday at noon right here on The Fan. Thanks to Brett Blakemore, Dane Mizutani, Paul Charcian, Pete Bercich, Tennafitzgerald here all week. We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for listening. It's been a good day.
Listen back to any of Common Man's programs by podcasting on the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.
Ice Cube's Big 3 is the surprise hit of the summer. This Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern on CBS, with playoff elimination on the line. The most physical, fiercest, and competitive basketball in the world. Miami's Michael Beasley and Lance Stevenson must win to make the playoffs. And breakout star Dwight Howard of the LA Riot will battle Gary Payton's Boston squad in a do-or-die match for both teams. 6 teams are alive for 4 spots, and all must win. There's no crying in the Big 3. And the no-holds-barred action starts Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Presented by iHeart.
Come on, why is this taking so long? This thing is ancient.
Still using yesterday's tech? Upgrade to the ThinkPad X1 Carbon. Ultra-light, ultra-powerful, and built for serious productivity. With Intel Core Ultra processors, blazing speed, and AI-powered performance that keeps up with your business, not the other way around.
Whoa, this thing moves.
Stop hitting snooze on new tech. Win the tech search at Lenovo.com. Lenovo. Unlock AI experiences with the ThinkPad X1 Carbon, powered by Intel Core Ultra processors, so you can work, create, and boost productivity all on one device.